Today we're going to be continuing my James Bond series leading up to No Time to Die with Diamonds Are Forever, so let's talk about it. What's up everybody, Justin here. Today we're going to be continuing my James Bond series with Diamonds Are Forever, which was released in 1971 and once again was directed by Guy Hamilton. This is the 7th James Bond film, and this stars Sean Connery as 007 after the last film, the 6th film, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, starred George Lazenby as James Bond. Sean Connery is coming back for his last official James Bond movie. A diamond smuggling investigation leads James Bond to Las Vegas, where he uncovers an evil plot involving a rich business tycoon. Blofeld is once again in this movie, and they disregard everything that On Her Majesty's Secret Service had set up with him and his wife and Blofeld. We have Charles Gray playing Blofeld in this movie, and this is where it starts to get really campy. I remember liking this movie as a kid. I really liked the opening sequence, and I remember a lot of Mr. Kidd and Mr. Wint. But watching this as an adult, I think it's my least favorite Sean Connery movie. It's still an entertaining movie. All the James Bond movies are entertaining in their own way, but this is by far my least favorite Sean Connery one, for many different reasons that just this film does not work. I think Charles Gray's performance as Blofeld is really laughable. There's many times we have clones of Blofeld. We even have him dressing up as a lady, which I think that they did a good job of making Blofeld very sinister early on in the previous James Bond movies, but they make him much more of a joke in this movie. So they kind of take away from that villainous aspect that he had previously set up, and they just kind of throw it away in this movie, and he's a laughable villain in this movie. Sean Connery is decent in the movie, but you can tell that there's plenty of times where he's just not there. He's there to film the movie, but he doesn't give this movie his all. There's not that much action scenes in this movie compared to previous James Bond films, so you don't feel like there's a lot for James Bond to do in this movie. I still like seeing Sean Connery in the movie, and he looks a little bit boring in the movie. I think Mr. Kidd and Mr. Wint in the movie were a great duo. They're very sinister in the movie without actually doing a lot. How they handled themselves screamed a villain right away. And there were a few times in this movie, and I remember watching them as a kid, that James Bond came very, very close to dying many times in this movie. And I remember the funeral sequence where he is in the coffin about to get burned to ashes and that, and I was wondering, how is he actually going to get out of this? And there's a few times where they do that, and I think it loses its effect after the first time because he keeps cheating death, and we know James Bond probably won't die in any of these movies, but if they keep doing it over and over again, it loses its effect really early on. The plot is a bit stretched out, and they add a lot of different people that are in the movie for him to investigate. There's just too much going on. It's a bit campy at times. This movie just lacks energy. It just lacks those thrills that the previous James Bond movies had. But for me, there's just too much humor in this movie that just does not work. It's not that serious compared to the other films. And the other films did a good job of setting up that tone really well. And I think this movie kind of disregarded that. And that with it being Sean Connery's last performance, he didn't go out with a bang. I much rather preferred George Lazenby to be in this movie and see how it would have been differently. But we got this last Sean Connery movie. I remember liking it as a kid. I liked the opening sequence. I like Mr. Kidd and Mr. Wint. Blofeld is a joke in the movie. Overall, it's a movie that just lacked its energy, and Sean Connery felt like he was just there and didn't really give the best performance in the movie. It's entertaining in its own way, but it's not my favorite James Bond movie. I'm gonna go ahead and give Diamonds Are Forever a C+. Thank you guys for checking my review for Diamonds Are Forever. Stay tuned. Next week, I'll have my first Roger Moore video, Live and Let Die. My name is Just Watch Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.